Hello and welcome to The World Now. We begin in the United Arab Emirates, where world leaders are gathering for a second day for the 28th Climate Change Summit. Longtime campaigner on climate issues King Charles III earlier today addressed world leaders, calling for the restoration of nature's economy. Other world leaders, including President Bola Tinubu, are expected to speak at the summit. We have details in this report.
The United Nations Annual Climate Summit is underway in Dubai, with world leaders approving a climate disaster fund that will help vulnerable nations cope with the impact of drought, floods and rising seawater. The agreement marked a positive signal of momentum at the start of the conference, known as COP28. In an opening address to the United Nations Climate Summit, King Charles told world leaders the dangers of climate change were no longer a distant risk and urged them to take more action.
I have seen across the Commonwealth and beyond countless communities which are unable to withstand repeated shocks, whose lives and livelihoods are laid waste by climate change. Unless we rapidly repair and restore nature's unique economy based on harmony and balance, which is our ultimate sustainer, our own economy and survivability will be imperiled.
Similarly, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres said COP28 will underline the need to preserve a livable climate, while emphasizing that the production of coal, oil and gas must rapidly decline.
We cannot save a burning planet via fire holes of fossil fuels. We must accelerate a just, equitable transition to renewables. The science is clear. The 1.5-degree limit is only possible if we ultimately stop burning all fossil fuels. Not reduce, not abate, phase out with a clear time frame aligned with 1.5 degrees.
In the meantime, the United Arab Emirates and Germany have pledged $100 million to the Loss and Damage Fund, while the UK pledged £60 million. UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan also announced a $30 billion green investment fund designed to bridge the climate finance gap. Esther Mapariola, TVC News.
For more perspectives on the summit, let's have climate and environment campaigner, Environmental Rights Action, Babawale Obayonju. He joins us on The World Now. Thank you so much for joining us. Day one of the United Nations 20th Conference of the Parties ended successfully, you would say, in the United Arab Emirates with the historic agreement on a previously contentious issue, which is the Climate Disaster Funds. The question I'll ask is, what will it take for these countries to commit to this deal?
I hope I'm audible enough.
Of course, you are.
Firstly, we celebrate that this COP on the first day is deciding to take a drastic step to operationalize the loss and damage funds. That in itself we celebrate. But while we are celebrating, we are also looking at the compromise we took as community people across the world to allow these funds to come to reality, which is first agreeing with the conference, with the convention, with the parties that the World Bank should be the interim hold or should be the interim holder of the funds for the first 4 years. And we have known from time immemorial with the World Bank and its operation. If this is not upheld, it could pose a problem or a danger to the fund and how it's allocated. So while we are celebrating, we are also concerned. Can the World Bank keep to their promise to distribute these funds when it comes to the people as at when due and when they need it? That is a question we all are asking. The second thing is, we have seen governments pledge before. This is not the first time we are creating a fund. The Global Green, the Green Grant Fund was the GCF, the Global Climate Fund, yes, was put into effect some years ago, and pledges were made. But as I speak to you, that pause is not fully funded. So this in itself, while we celebrate it, still cause for concern because we have seen in time past where commitments have been made. Adaptation fund is there, the GCF fund is there, now the loss and damage fund is there. Would the government who have pledged, committed or made pledge of voluntary commitment put funds in that account?
So
or
what will
put
it
funds
take?
in that post?
What will it
Yes.
take for these countries to commit to this deal?
It's just a political will to stop playing politics with humans, to stop playing politics with our climate. All that is required to solve this whole climate crisis that we are in is just the political will. Because if we look at from COP to COP, there has been several mechanisms that they have put in place to try to delay the solution to the climate catastrophe that we are in. Which scientists have said it, and people have said it time without number. The solution to keep the temperature below 1.5 is to leave all new fossil fuel, old fossil fuel in the ground, and while we're transiting to a new form of energy. So the first step that needs to happen is first the government needs to be able to stand and get the political will to do what they have pledged and put funds in that account or in that fund. The money they have pledged, make it available in that fund. It's the political will they need. And it's not a time where people should make pledges that they are not willing to keep. And while that is happening, vis-a-vis, there should be effort to make sure that no new oil well or no new oil field, no fossil fuel is extracted across the globe. That is one way to balance the equation. Why there's a political will to put the funds in the account to help people who have suffered loss and damage, there should also be the political will to make sure that no new fossil fuel is extracted across the world. So those are the two balances that needs to be in place.
So a look at the energy transition that we're expecting to work in developing countries, particularly like Nigeria. What would you suggest should be the step-by-step approach for phasing out fossil fuels and adopting renewables?
Yes, so we've made the postulate several years ago in our organization. When we started the campaign on Leave the Oil in the Soil, the proposal we made to the government, even when they themselves acknowledged at that time when we started the campaign, that it's going to be like 20, 25 years down the line. This was like around 2008, 2009, 2010, that the oil we have in 20, 25 years from that time, 30, would dry up. And we are beginning to hear stories of these companies divesting because the wells that they have, some of them are no longer productive. What was predicted years ago is already coming to pass. So the first thing that the government needs to do is to look at our economy. Before the advent of oil, we had agriculture. Agriculture was a main income earner, foreign income earner for the country. We need to go back and strengthen that. The last administration tried to do a little bit about this. This administration needs to also intensify efforts in that direction, while we are also looking at how we can transit to clean, renewable energies that benefit the people and not for export. Look at the crave for gas in the past year. All the gas clamor that they have been talking about, majority of them are not for use on the continent. So we are talking about energy transition while you're looking at providing energy not for the use in the country, but for export. So there has to be a balance. We have to look at things critically. While we are transiting, leaving the oil in the soil, we can, like we proposed in that recommendation at that time. No new oil field be open. The ones that are open, manage them with best international practice while we are transiting to clean renewable energy. Because we know as a country, Nigeria, we can't just make that transition to happen overnight. We have to do it strategically. We have to look at our economy, we have to look at the system and begin to find ways together, not looking for new oil fields, because that's going to give us more problems. It's going to release more carbon to the atmosphere and the greenhouse gases and the likes. So it's going to be more problem for us. So we need to look at it holistically.
Climate and Environment Campaigner, Environmental Rights Action, Babawale Obayojo, thank you so much for speaking to us on The World Now.
Thank you for having me.